Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Rosko and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time. Welcome to the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to talk to your adult kids about downsizing. And sometimes it's the kids that want to talk to the parents, but sometimes it's the parents that are struggling talking to their kids. So we're going to talk about it that way today. Yep. I'm Jody Rosko.
I'm Heather Fisher.
And I just think this is, we see it both ways, right? We see kids who are like, oh my gosh, my parents, I really feel like they need to move, but we're not, they're not wanting to listen. But we also see adults who are, adult parents who are saying like, oh, my adult kids don't want to hear it. They don't want, they feel like, you're fine, Mom, you're fine. And I want to talk about it. And we get lots of people that come to our classes, which I love so much, that are forward thinking. And a lot of them are like, we're not ready right yet. We just want to get ready to think about what this is going to look like. And which is the perfect time to come to the classes and just start thinking about it. And then they need to have some conversations with the people they care about.
Yeah, I think if you've been listening to us at all, you'll know that we really think this is a conversation that the earlier you start it, the easier and the better the planning can be. It doesn't need to be that last minute crisis, but the conversation tends to be difficult for various reasons that we'll talk about across generations, and we do see it both ways. But, if we can give some tips for getting through it and why the emotions may be the way they are and get to some understanding, it can make things easier.
Yeah. So we find people who, some of the people that come to our classes are saying things like, we just don't want to leave it all to our kids, which is the best gift ever, I will say, as a kid who got it all left to them. And so I really appreciate that. And the kids will appreciate that too. They just don't know it right now. And so they're saying, we just want to, often the people that are saying that are people who it has been left to them.
Yeah.
We've had people come up and say, listen, I had to take care of my mother-in-law's house and I had to take care of my mom's house, and I'm not doing that to my kids.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate that so much because you shouldn't. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I know my mom is definitely in that boat. She dealt with my grandparents' house, with my aunt, and it was a big ordeal. And she's always said, I'm not doing that to you kids, and does a good job of getting, the things decluttered. But I think there's a lot of pieces to the conversation that can be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom was, she just didn't want to talk about it and didn't want to deal with it. And I get that, but also it makes for so much more stress when then something happens, when you have a diagnosis or something. And I really want to know what she would want, and I don't know it as the kid. And so having these conversations are just really, we just have to, all of us, we just have to get over it and have the conversations. And I think sometimes the kids don't want to because they don't want to believe that their parents are getting older, and it feels like that feels scary, or we get some of that.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, I think sometimes the kids want to push off that conversation because it feels overwhelming to them as well.
Right.
As adult kids, a lot of times you're the manager of that transition. Because your parents might need help with it. And so I think that the can gets kicked down the road sometimes because the adult kids are, managing their own household and and they just feel like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea, but let's talk about that later.
Right.
Gotta go.
The sandwich generation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So
the kids and the parents and all the things. Yeah. So, the bottom line of this is like, we don't wait until our house is on fire to figure out how we're going to get out of the house, right? And it's just the same thing as this. We don't want to wait until there's a fall or a diagnosis or something bad happens and then try to make these plans, because the plans are already big to begin with. And so we want to make them with as much clarity and, peace of mind and all of that as we possibly can. And making them out of crisis is possible, but never great.
Yeah, I think that one way to look at the planning too, kind of like the the choose your own adventure books, that you can have a stack of different ideas and plans of what you want. Like, we want to live in this home as long as possible, but if this, here's the type of place we would want to go. But if that, here's the
diagram.
here's the next stage, and having that conversation of, we're good for now, but as we see this start to happen, we want this next thing to happen. You have those layers of plans, that are, exactly our name, a roadmap for what's going to happen in the future, what you want to happen.
And the other thing is, the earlier you start deciding or start thinking about it, the more options you're going to have. Because as things happen, that all of your options kind of narrow down. And so you want to be able to have the most options possible that you can pick from and kind of decide what that looks like. So in 2023 AARP report showed that 63% of adults 55 and older who had downsized said they wish they had started planning years earlier. And we hear that all the time. Once it's done, we hear, oh my gosh, we should have done this earlier. I wish we would have done it earlier. The doing of it, it can be fun if you really, embrace it. Even though it can be a lot depending on how much you've accumulated and how long you've put off dealing with it.
Yeah.
But it feels free and easy at the end, and so that's the goal. So,
yeah, and it's just about starting that dialogue and giving yourself time to move towards that decision.
Yeah. So the reasons that it's hard to bring up, let's talk about that. Emotional fears, like you're afraid your kids are thinking, oh my gosh, they're dying and they're not telling me, and they're going to get worried about that. You might think that the kids are going to talk you out of it or try to talk you out of it. And some kids do that. Some kids are like, Mom, you can't sell the family home. That's where we have Christmas. And so if you're the kid, you need to really think about what your parents are saying and what their life looks like and how much they have to live in it and you aren't living in it and what that really looks like. Or the parents think they're going to upset the kids by making such a big change. And that may or may not be true. I mean, they may just be thinking that, and the kids aren't feeling like that at all. That just might be in their head. So they don't want to. They might have some guilt around it, right? They don't want to become a burden.
Yeah. I think we see a lot of times people are wanting to preserve the family traditions in the home, and we get that, but there's a lot of other days of the year, like you said, when you're living in it and making sure, that you can make that shift to still hold traditions, but make your life manageable.
And, since my mom's gone and my grandma both, together, that just automatically changed our traditions, because they couldn't be the same. And it actually feels more weird when you try to keep them the same if you've moved. They have moved on to the next phase in there. And it feels better if you kind of create new traditions around it. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you don't have memories of all the old traditions or they weren't amazing. It's just life changes as we grow and families change and babies come and people pass away. And, that's how that all happens. And holding on to it sometimes really tight isn't the best plan.
I think there's so many ways to merge little bits and pieces of traditions into new traditions, and that's really the best way to look at it. That can be in simple, small ways. But then it's evolving too, and being the new traditions for the next generations. That just becomes a woven fabric of your family instead of it has to be exactly this. Right.
It's a story that continues, not just a static story, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Cultural pressure. Some parents were raised, they just you're not supposed to ask your kids for help. You're supposed to be the parent. They're afraid of appearing weak or incapable. And this kind of took me down a little rabbit hole of another episode that I want to do later about why in America it's so hard to talk about aging, and we we just seem to struggle with it, and other cultures are just different. They have different, concepts around aging, and just the gist of it. But like I said, we'll do another episode on it.
Well, yeah, this is like the hot box of topics intermingling, all the topics we avoid: aging, death, and money.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
That's what we avoid as families oftentimes.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's generational for the time period we're in, or if it's, cultural to America.
But there is some cultural history to it because of our fierce independence, that it comes across in like everybody needs to go and create their life independently, so that means that multi-generational homes don't really happen in America, and so then we lose a lot of stuff with not having multi-generational homes, being able to care for, and it's a super interesting topic that we see a lot, and for parents, it means that they feel like if they tell their kids, they might be losing their independence. So like wanting to stay and losing that independence is scary to them. So just a kind of interesting side topic that we'll talk about. But we see a lot of that fierce independence and reasons why people don't want to leave or don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, so if we can get to having the conversation, there really are a lot of benefits that come. The parent can feel relieved and not alone.
Yeah.
I think especially in situations where one spouse has already passed, when the children can step up and be that sounding board and that resource, that can really be a help for someone who's now navigating decisions on their own. The kids can feel included and not blindsided by a decision. Sometimes we see that in families, and the adult kids may be feeling like, I don't know why you want to do this all of a sudden.
Right.
And, from our side, we know that those parents have probably been thinking about it, talking about it amongst themselves, doing research, and it's not sudden.
Right.
It's usually been years long of starting to dip their toe into thinking about it.
But we have that generation that holds all their cards really close, right? Doesn't talk about money with the kids, doesn't talk about, their plans or whatever. And so the kids do feel like it's like a sudden, like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this conversation can give everyone that time to prepare emotionally and through all of the tasks.
Yeah, and they can feel like it's a shared plan once you kind of talk it through. And there's two options there, right? Like, is it that you are asking the kids for help and advice, or is it that you're just talking to them about what your plan is, right? And you have to decide what that looks like. But either way, we need to incorporate the people that we care about into what is happening or what we want to have happen.
Yeah, and in both of those situations, you're truly just asking for their support.
Yeah, and if the plan is we're going to talk about it next spring, that's fine. It can be early enough that, hey, we're thinking about this, and it doesn't have to be some massive conversation. It can just be like, we're thinking about this, and, we're going to look over the next, year at some places, and we're kind of going to, we'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
So, and then the kids can understand what your thought process is, why, whether you want to keep independence, whether you want to simplify your life, whether, you want to travel more, whatever, your kids will understand what it is that's happening.
Well, that definitely goes back to our step one of
right.
being dreamy. Once you've done that for yourself and why your plan is what it is because of that dream of what you want your life to look like, sharing that really can be a help in getting everybody to see what page you're on and being on that same page. Like, oh, I get it. You are lonely here at home, or you're not feeling safe, or whatever those reasons that are drawing you to making that downsizing move. Make sure you share that dream and the exciting things that you're looking forward to in that next chapter.
Yes. So that is actually the first thing to do before you even talk to the kids, is spend that dreamy time and write down your why. We've talked about all of this, but is it health? Is it simplifying? Is it cost? Is it
social?
social? Is it your lifestyle? What is it that you are trying to accomplish with this move? And that will help you decide where you want to go also. So it all brings clarity to you first, and then being able to bring clarity, to your kids when you're talking to them. So, and I feel like the more you have thought about it and really laid out what that is, and have some really great thought processes through it, then the kids aren't going to think like this is some whim that is just like, oh gosh, mom's just talking about this or dad's just talking about this. Like they're going to be like, oh yeah, wow, they thought about this, and it just gives you a little bit more credence on what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you have more than one kid, don't assume that they're all on the same page, right? You have kids maybe that are sentimental and want to keep everything and want you to keep everything, but not at their house. Or practical kids who are like, yeah, let's go, let's get it done. Or disengaged kids who just, they're
I don't
like,
have time for this. Yeah.
yeah. Or you do what you do you, mom and dad, like whatever, it's fine with me, but they're kind of just not needing to be part of it or in their minds or whatever. So, your own kids, who's going to be like what. And so, just remember, they might not agree with you 100%, but you can at least all come to an agreement on what it is. Like that everybody will understand, at least, even if they don't fully agree.
Yeah. I think it's important too to be clear on what you're wanting from the conversation.
Yeah.
Are you wanting help, or are you just wanting to share? And what are you asking for? Makes it easier for them to know how to respond and what you need.
Yeah. Unless you have a child that really wants to be the point person and you feel like you need help, and be careful assigning them that without like having a conversation with them, because if you think about your kids, there's always the one that you think is going to handle it. And so, but have a conversation around that instead of just saying you need to handle this now, right? Like,
right,
yeah,
right. And I think knowing, I am one of 3 kids, and I have 3 kids, so I have got like that triangle dynamic in several places, and I think that there's different parts of it that. Between me and my siblings that we handle differently, and not any one of us would do it best alone. Yeah. But knowing the wheelhouse of who can help with which piece, sometimes that's location or, physical strength or, knowledge base on different topics. The same with my own kids. If you're all working together as a team and come out of this conversation all together, you can accomplish it much easier. Yeah.
You can do this at a family dinner, or you can have a big call, or if people are out of town, you can, follow up one later and dig deeper with it. So it just doesn't have to be a whole thing. You can just kind of start bringing it up early.
Yeah.
But then once you really do kind of have a plan of what you're thinking, talk through that whole plan. Kids need to know what you want to have happen with your stuff, what you want your legacy to look like, what you want your day-to-day to look like, so that they can help support whatever that is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's lots of small opportunities too to not be the intermediary between information. If there's pieces that they're confused about or not understanding, invite them to a tour of, where you're thinking of living, if that's a community, or invite them, on the appointment with an estate attorney, an elder law attorney, or your estate planner, or your financial person, if you're comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And that would be helpful for them to understand that, here's how you got to the decision that you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that telephone game is always hard Because everybody asks different questions, right? Everybody has different thought processes. When they hear somebody say something, you might think these questions and your kids might think a totally different line of questioning, and then you'll be telling them about it and they'll be like, well, what about this and what about this? And then you won't know. And it's just, there can be frustration when that happens. So.
Yeah, and you can definitely be a help to your parent in those appointments if they have questions. I know from personal experience, I've been on some appointments with my mom, and there's a lot of information going back and forth, and if you can be the person to take notes, to revisit later, or to make sure that they're clear on the answers, that can be a huge help.
So what if your kids don't want to talk? If you sort of breach this subject and they say things like, you're fine, you're not ready for that.
Don't worry about it right now.
It's all good.
All good.
Yeah. I think a way you can respond is, I get that feels early, that this feels early, but that's exactly why I want to talk about it now. I'm not in a crisis, right? We're not having a crisis situation. So that means I still have choices about what I'm doing, and I want to just talk about those choices with you. So it's not urgent. It's not any of those things. And really what you're hearing from them is their own fears, right?
Yeah.
When they're saying those things, those are their fears of, oh my gosh, my parents are getting older. That's really hard to handle, in their own way. And time marches on. We really don't have any choice about that. And so, like I said before, I've learned that through my experiences that we have very little control over what that looks like. Yeah. And so if this is what your parents feel like they're ready to do, or if you feel like you're ready to do it, and your kids, are struggling with that a little bit, just keep doing it anyway. It's okay. Just move forward, because when your right timing is, and you'll be able to get through to them later if that's what needs to happen. If they need a slow roll into it.
I absolutely love that you're giving our listeners permission like that, because I think we can't say that enough. When the time is right for you, march on and do it. You will be happier, and so will your kids, so will the people around you, because they will know that you're safe and taken care of, and that you're happy, and then you've avoided that crisis, and you are just settled, and then you all can enjoy just each other and life.
Yeah. I mean, if you are starting to feel like you need help and you're not getting help, sometimes that's because as kids, you aren't asking for it, so we aren't looking for it. I can say that from the other side. And sometimes you just need to say something like, hey, I need a little support. This is what I need. And as we're looking forward, so there's all kinds, like you said earlier, there's all kinds of stuff. There's what to do with my stuff, but there might be like, hey, I'm struggling with driving, but I still want to go to the grocery and here and there. Like, what are we going to do about that? Or how can we, and maybe there's a service that can help you. I mean, there's all kinds of options. It's not like now your kids have to, drop their whole life and start doing all the things, because that's really hard also. Yeah. And so most parents don't want that. I hear so often, my kids are busy with, and they are, our lives are very crazy busy right now. And so, but how can we still support each other through that? I think that's what the conversation is. How can we support each other through it?
I think the most, my parents, when I've gone to my mom's and said, I'm coming over, on a Saturday, what can I do to help? Make a list. And the days that I show up and she has 3, 4, or 5 things on the list, small things, not major things. And I know that it is a help, and I know exactly what to do, fix the printer and do this and help get this back in the basement. And I know I'm being a help, and that is a great way to operate, because I think a lot of us as adult kids, we're like, how can I help? Oh, I'm fine. And you feel guilty because you're not helping, but you don't know what to do. And so being very clear on just the tasks, it's a lot less of a big deal on someone's schedule and on getting it done, and it just takes the emotions out. Okay, we've got these things done, let's have lunch. And
I mean, in all transparency, this was a place where my mom and I failed. We genuinely failed to communicate with each other on how we could help each other, move through. And we started with the crisis, and we went, we just didn't get ourselves into that place that we needed to be. And, she had things that needed to be done, and I wanted to do them, but she didn't want me to do them because, she was the parent and I was the kid. And it was just this whole bunch of stuff that we weren't able to communicate through. And part of that is probably the crisis that was in the middle of it all. And so I would just say, just do your best to start early and talk through it and figure out, if you're emotional about it, figure out why and figure out how you can get through that part so you can support each other. Because we didn't get there, unfortunately. And I hate that about it, but I can't change it. But
yeah, I know you've learned so much from everything you went through and are able to share that. And I do think it was just, more of a crisis situation, and that amplified
it really did
all of the emotions. But like you said, starting early and doing that ahead of time, you can get into, a routine that works well. And I feel like if you are the one wanting to accomplish this and your kids just aren't really, stepping up and being helpful when you need them to, but are also saying, no, I will help you, but it's just falling short and not getting done. I think it's okay. There's lots of reasons for that, but maybe just say, okay, I have, this person that's going to mow the lawn once a week, or if you want to do it before Thursday, and you just, if they do and they, take that as the sign, like, oh, I really need to do this, or you just move forward and have someone else do it. There's a lot of outside resources that can just accomplish it, and then you can work through just the emotions around it.
I think it kind of relates to, when something bad happens to somebody, if somebody, something passes away or something, and you're like, oh, I want to help that person. And then you say to them, I'm here if you need me, but they don't know what, there's no specificity to that, and they don't know what they need. And sometimes we're in that place, like we don't know what we need, but we just know we need something. So the more clear you can get, the more clarity you can get around what it is that you do need, and who might need to be able to do that for you, is going to get it done. There's kind of the vague, like, sure, I'll help you. Okay, yeah, I need help. Like, that isn't anything, right? We just need, I need, groceries on Thursdays. And whether they, click it from Kroger and have it delivered, or whether they go shopping for whatever that looks like,
I think we talked about that a bit when we had Mark Healy on the Driving with Dignity episode. And, on that family plan, that's exactly what you're saying. It feels overwhelming to those around you if it's just like, well, I'm not comfortable driving anymore, or I'm not comfortable taking care of the lawn anymore, whatever that is. But when you're very specific, in that episode, we talked about the family can always find solutions and rally around you if it's like you said, my priorities are getting to my Tuesday lunch and, having the yard mulched once a year. Like, that is so much easier to accomplish than just, it's getting hard, I need help.
Right. So that's why the conversation is so important, honestly. And the conversation needs to eventually get into the nitty gritty of, like, this is what needs to happen, or this is what I want to have happen with my things, or this is, where all of our finances are. And now you know where it is. It's a book that we keep with, or files that we keep with the info, like, just all, and it will just give you peace of mind. And honestly, it will give them so much peace of mind as well. So I would say, just get on to talking about it. If your kids live out of state, you can do a video call. You could take them with you on a little virtual tour if you're going somewhere, if they want to be part of it. And so you can there are ways to help them be part of it, or maybe they come in for a little while and just, you guys kind of hash it out when they visit. But out of state doesn't mean that they aren't interested in helping or aren't interested just because of the distance. It's just It's just that they're far, so you're going to have to find other ways to include them.
Yeah, absolutely. And planning ahead when you know they're coming into town, don't wait till they're here to say, oh, I want to, go on a tour, and then you can't get it just kind of feels very haphazard, and everyone's left feeling like, wait, what's going on?
They got it sprung on them.
And you might not be able to get things scheduled, and it just ends up feeling like, oh, this is not well thought out. So start early on planning that as well.
Yeah, and you can break it into topics. Like you can do it over time. Like you could just have one conversation at a time. So one conversation can be like, about your future home goals. Like, if I were to move, here's what I would want. I would want a 1-story with less maintenance, and I only need 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, or, I want it to be closer to my friends or closer to my church or closer to my kids, or, like whatever that is. Like, what would that look like? So there's a one little conversation all in of itself.
Yeah. So another conversation would be what you want to prevent. So that is like, I don't want you to be stuck making decisions if I'm ever in the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't want to be a burden. I don't, whatever those things are. What are you going to do with your stuff? There's a whole conversation. And we have lots of podcasts on what to do with your stuff, and we'll keep making them. But, is there anything of mine that you want? Ask them that. And don't be upset if there's not a ton of things that they want. And, we've talked a lot about the stories behind the things and all of that. So go listen to a couple of the other podcasts when we're talking about that. But that can be a whole conversation of what are we going to do with my stuff, and what legacy, is around that.
I do feel like we, always say the kids aren't going to want much and all of that. And that's all true. But I think that question up front before you start getting rid of, if we've motivated you and you are like, I have cleaned out 3 rooms and the basement and the attic, the kids will feel that same emotion if they weren't asked of like, oh my gosh, what just happened? I wanted it all. Even they don't. Just being able to process that question and tell you.
But there might be specific things that they have always wanted that they never told you.
Yeah.
And so before you start, definitely ask them. And if those are things that are in the attic or the basement or the storage area or whatever, give them now. Just give them to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then everybody's on the same page and nobody's feeling like, oh my gosh, you threw away, all of my memories.
Right.
You're just on the same page from the start.
Another conversation would be what kind of support you might need over the time. So is it driving? Is it yard work? Is it help with your paperwork or paying your bills or getting you to the doctor? What kind of help might you need? And then who can do that?
Yeah. And then probably the last conversation is your finances and your documents, just letting them know that it's organized and here's where it is and here's what you need if we do get to that crisis. Here's everything organized, which is a huge gift you can give to your adult kids.
I cannot say that enough. I cannot say it enough times.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yes. Yeah.
So your takeaways on this is that the conversation is a gift. It's a gift to your family, not a burden. You're trying to communicate what you're looking forward, and you've been all dreamy, and you've thought about what that future is going to look like, and you're excited about it. And now you're just excited to share that with them and figure out what that's going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody moves forward feeling lighter, feeling like there's a plan, and having some action to get you there. Yeah,
you're not saying like, hey, I want to move and you need to do everything about it. That's not the conversation. The conversation is, walk with me as I plan, what we're doing next. And, maybe you're a collaborative person and you just really want to talk it out with all the kids, and maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, hey, here's what the plan is and I just want you to know, but whatever that looks like, you're giving them, permission to talk about aging, to talk about whatever concerns they might have, confidence that they're going to honor your wishes, and they'll know what they are, and be able to honor them, and that will give them so much peace of mind when the time comes that they need to do that. So much peace of mind. and a future that's just, they're not guessing. They're not just guessing what's happening. It gives them grace to be able to make those decisions knowing what you wanted and feel good about it.
Yeah, and if you've started with that dream and chosen something that brings you peace and excitement, they can feel that too. And sometimes all the support you need is, oh, I'm excited for you too, Mom or Dad. And, then you just move forward and do it.
Yeah. Sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones, that bring the most peace in the end. The ones that you're afraid to have, the ones that seem overwhelming. Once you get through it, it's like, okay.
It wasn't as bad as
Right?
I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So if a move is in your plans, once you've gotten all dreamy, make sure you reach out to us. We have a great network of agents all over the country, or us if you're local to the Dayton area. Reach out to us for that move. And
Downsizingroadmap.com. You can reach out to us through there, and we're excited to help you with the process.
Yep.
All right.
Talk to you next time.
Bye. Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.